Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Max Story.
Hey folks, I want to share a couple things with you before we get started with today's episode. We have two new things for you. One of them is a Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel. So you can type in youtube.com/@ Blue Collar Leadership. You go find out we've got some videos out there already. I hope you'll subscribe. Hope you'll click the notification bell there so you'll know when we put out new videos, because we will be putting them out intentionally moving forward. And also those videos are going to be more professional than the videos that are on our personal channels that we already have out there. So hope you go check that out. That's another free resource for you, especially if you like videos. So be sure to tell your friends, family, or coworkers who like Blue Collar Leadership to go check out the YouTube channel. And please subscribe so we can get that thing going and get it visible to a lot more people. The second thing I want to tell you about is our Blue Collar Leadership Academy. You may not have really heard of that before. We just started it around October, the end of October last year. We started it with one course. We now have 3 courses. That's what's new about that. We got 2 new courses. So there's a total of 3 courses available. That is for internal workforce development and leadership development. So it's for top leaders, or really any leader at any level, to pay a subscription fee and give all of their team access. So it's not really for the individual to pay. It's more for the company to pay. And then for one flat rate, everyone in the organization can go through that training as long as the subscription is active. So you got access to one video course, or you can pay for an all-access subscription, which gives you access to all the videos that are available. Again, right now there's 3. Soon there's going to be 4. And eventually there's probably going to be about 15. And those courses are about 8 hours total. The ones we have now are broken into 15-minute videos. The books we've done so far are 30 chapter books. So we got about 15 minutes of video teaching on each chapter. And then there's also a 30-page handout that you can download when you subscribed, that you can follow along, fill in some blanks. So check that out. You check at bluecollarleadership.com/academy, or go to the bluecollarleadership.com web page and look at the menu button for online courses. You can learn a lot more about that, what the rates are. If you got any questions, my number is 334-728-4143. I'd love to talk with you how you can leverage that course to grow and develop all of your people. Doesn't matter if you got 10 or you got 100 people or you got 1,000 or more people. It's one flat rate. Everybody can go through those courses as long as you're subscribed. Let's get on to today's episode. Hello, and thanks for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. So all of you who have been listening to my 30-part series on Who's Buying You, until you sell yourself, you won't sell much. You'll know I paused it last episode to bring you a New Year's message. I hope 2024 is going well for you. But if you've been listening and you're looking for that next episode of Who's Buying You, I hope you'll forgive me. You got to wait one more week, because I watched a YouTube video by Myron Golden, and he was talking about excuses and how they'll destroy your life. And I watched that after I recorded the last episode, and his message motivated and inspired me to do one more special episode in between my Who's Buying You series, just to help kickstart you guys off in 2024. So I hope you'll forgive me. I hope you like this lesson. When it comes to making excuses, say no more in 2024. That's kind of the message, the theme of this podcast. And I'm really looking forward to this. I talk a lot about excuses. You hear me talk about them in the past. If you've listened long enough, you've seen me write about them. If you follow me on LinkedIn, social media. Or if you've heard me speak in person, I often talk about excuses. They don't serve us. But I got to warn you, this episode right here, it contains leadership truth from beginning to end. And so if you're offended by leadership truth, let me tell you what leadership truth is. Leadership truth is kind of like a surgeon's scalpel. It might sting or even hurt a bit, but it's meant to help. If you like making excuses, you won't like this podcast. You might want to go ahead and stop right now while everything's good. But I hope you choose to listen anyway. But I'm just warning you, it's going to be a dose of leadership truth. I need to hear it. I know you need to hear it. You may not want to hear it, but I'm telling you, you need to hear it. And if you hear it and listen to it, you're going to see there's a lot of folks out there who need to hear it. So my challenge to you in 2024, stop making excuses. Stop making excuses. Excuses, excuses, excuses. We all come fully loaded with an unlimited supply, if you hadn't noticed. We always seem to have as many as we need at any given time on any given day. Just how it is. Excuses can always be found on the tip of our tongue, waiting to be used. That's the truth. I also believe this. Leaders, meaning people who are in a formal position of authority, with people reporting to them, I believe leaders come loaded with a few extra, just in case they need to make excuses for those who report to and or follow them. Because a lot of times leaders make excuses to the boss about why their team's not doing whatever they're doing. They make excuses for themselves, but they also make excuses for others. So formal authority leaders, they got to have a few extra because they got to help others make excuses. This is what I want you to know. Excuses won't take you to a place you want to be, but excuses will definitely take you to a place you don't want to be. So you can kind of see where we're going with this. Just remember I warned you. I hope you're still listening. But if your feelings are easily hurt, you're easily offended when somebody tells you the truth, and you like what you've been listening to in the past on my podcast, maybe you just won't stop listening to this one so you'll still be happy. But we can look outward for an excuse, or we can look inward for an answer. If you want to score in 2024, stop making excuses. So what I'm about to do for the rest of this podcast, I got 11 quotes I pulled from my quote file. Last time I did 10 to kick off the new year, 2024. This time I had to pull out one extra, so I got 11 quotes from several different sources. Several from Myron Golden, who had the podcast on that really inspired me to make this. So I'll share 4 or 5 quotes from him. I got some from John Maxwell, some from Wilford Fluckiger, and Jocko Willink, Leif Babin, his partner, those 2 Navy SEALs, and Scott Fay. So, all right, I warned you guys. Warning number 3, if you're still listening, don't blame me. Here we go. This first quote here, and I'll add some of my thoughts just to help provoke thought, raise awareness within you. I hope you got your mirror out. If you've been a long time listener, you know what I'm talking about. That mirror, that's your greatest and most valuable personal development tool in your toolbox, in your personal growth and leadership development toolbox. So let's get started with this first quote from Myron Golden. I discovered Myron a month or 2 ago, and been a long time since I discovered someone who really charges my battery and tells me some stuff in a way that I'm able to add a lot of quotes to my quote file. So during that episode on making excuses, I had captured like 4 quotes within the first 2 minutes. Probably some of these I'm about to share with you. I mean, he started out strong and it was good. Everybody on this planet needs to hear that. So I hope you'll look him up on YouTube and start listening. The man can help you if you want to be helped. If you're easily offended, you might not want to listen to Myron, because he's going to tell you some truth, and he's going to tell you some truth. And if you don't like it, he's still going to tell you some truth. But what he says, very much aligned with what I believe. Some of his episodes, I care less about them. Some of them, phenomenal, like this one was. Most of them are, actually. He just talks about some things that don't interest me, but most of it does. All right, this is what Myron Golden had to say. What is an excuse? A not so cleverly disguised lie. A bunch of words that you think other people will believe is a reason. Oh man, that's serious business right there. That's my kind of talk, because I like leadership truth. I don't like a bunch of mess. I don't like a bunch of sugarcoating, sweeping things under the rug, hiding the truth. I know what the truth is when it comes to people making excuses, and so do you. You know, the instant someone gives you an excuse, you know it. Guess what people know about you? They know the instant you give them an excuse. But what I liked about that quote, he provoked thought in me. I probably said it before, but it really resonated with me. That's why I do the same thing, I invite you to do. Listen to thought-provoking content that'll raise your awareness. But he just made it so crystal clear. An excuse is a lie. An excuse is a lie. We make them all the time. But our life is better off when we stop making them. And I know I've come a long way. I don't make many excuses as I used to. I still slip up, but when I do, I know it. I correct it. And I don't do a lot of excuse making, because I feel it the moment I say it. So if I say it, I unsay it. And I hate hearing them from other people, just like you. Number one reason, though, is this holding them back. Most of the people I hear them from are trying to climb to the next level and beyond. They don't even understand. They're making excuses after excuse after excuse after excuse. So I'm going to go to the second quote, and it's also from Myron Golden. Feeds right off of this other one. I want you to think about this one. This was a good one right here. Blame is one of the most popular excuses in the world. It's someone else's fault. Those are the words from Myron Golden. Blame is one of the most popular excuses in the world. It's someone else's fault. I'm telling you, he started out strong in that podcast series. He's a person of faith, and he talks a lot about faith and references scripture and that sort of thing from the Bible. If that offends you, or you don't like to learn from that, you might not want to listen to Myron Golden. But I'm gonna go and tell you, he in between all that, he's filling his videos with truth. And something you may not know about me, but I became a Christian in 2012 at the age of I think I just had turned 43. But my whole life I had been agnostic. I didn't know, I didn't care, didn't want to know, didn't want to care, didn't make any difference. But 2008 is when I discovered leadership, and I started learning from a lot of people who were believers. But I didn't care. I didn't care how much they talked about God and their faith and all that stuff. What I cared about was what they would say. It was making sense to me. The part that wasn't related to faith, just the straight talk, it was resonating with me. And they understood where they got it. I didn't understand literally. I knew where they got it because they said it a lot. Come from the Bible. But I didn't care. All I knew is the principles they were sharing that were not literally scripture, just a regular old straight talk like I talk all the time. I don't quote scripture. I can't quote scripture. I've read the Bible cover to cover, but I can't quote it. It doesn't stick with me. These quotes I share with you, these thoughts I share with you, that's what sticks with me. They can be found in the Bible. They can be found in a whole lot of other places. They can be found in a lot of books that ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. But the truth is the truth. It's like gravity. If it's something in the Bible talking about gravity, it doesn't matter if it comes from the Bible or it didn't. Gravity is gravity. So what I try to share with people is the truth. And I just wanted to share that with you so you know a little bit about who Myron Golden is in case you go listening. I don't want to hurt your feelings if I'm recommending something you don't want to listen to. So I want to be clear to you. But the man says some good stuff. All right. Let's go on to John Maxwell, one of those folks I started learning from. He was a pastor for like 25 years, and he moved into the secular world of business and started teaching leadership. But I was following him right out of the gate. I started following John about a year or two after I discovered Dr. Stephen Covey. But here's a quote from John. The habit of making excuses creates reasons in our minds for not being responsible for our lives. That feeds right off of Myron's quote, that last one I shared with you. But the habit of making excuses creates reasons in our minds for not being responsible for our lives. See, we're lying to ourselves. When we make an excuse, we're lying to ourselves. No one else is buying what we're selling, but we buying it. That's where the most damage is done. We buy our own excuses. You know, Myron, in that last quote, he said, blame is one of the most popular excuses in the world. It's someone else's fault. That's what Myron said. That means someone else is responsible for our lives. There's so many people. And I used to be bad about it, but I'm way better now. Remember, we don't have to be sick to get better, so I'm still getting better. I'll always be under construction. But I used to transfer responsibility to my life to someone else all the time. Blame is comfort food for the soul. Excuses make us feel a little better, but don't make everybody else feel better. Nobody else likes our excuses. Nobody else wants to hear them. You want to launch to the next level in 2024. That's why I had to share this episode on excuses. There's some of you out there making excuses. You need to stop. You need to stop making excuses. Stop making excuses to the boss. Stop making excuses to your spouse, to your children, to your friends, to your family. Just stop making excuses. They're not serving you. They are hurting you, just like they hurt me. They're holding you back, just like they held me back. It ain't nobody else's fault. Your life ain't nobody else's fault. And I tell you this, life's hard. People may have done some bad things to you that hurt, that influenced you, but it did not determine you. Your choices determine you. One of the choices a lot of people make is to make excuses. They don't have to, they choose to. Let me share another quote with you from Wilford Fluckiger. That's Fluckiger. It's from an old book. He wrote an old book about influence. It was in, I think, 1962. But I read that book. It's just a little simple book. And the book wasn't necessarily great, but I got a lot of quotes out of it for my quote file. So in a sense, it was extremely a good book for me because I was mining nuggets. But a lot of it, I didn't care nothing about it. But I read books to mine nuggets these days. He said this, Wilford Fluckiger. He says, when we use an excuse, we attempt to convince both ourselves and others that unsatisfactory is somehow acceptable. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right there when we make an excuse. Exactly what Wilford said. We're attempting to convince ourselves and others that unsatisfactory is somehow acceptable. As I'm reading that quote and I'm thinking about it, I'd recommend you, if you got some teenage children in your home, in your life, you might want to play this podcast, pause and talk about it with them. Don't be blaming them. Don't be teaching them. Be sharing with them your thoughts about this and ask them to share their thoughts about this so that you can help them stop making excuses way earlier than probably me and you did. And if a little bit of faith-based talk don't offend you, I highly recommend you to go check out the video on YouTube from Myron Golden and watch that one with them too and talk about it. You're going to learn a lot because you're going to be thinking your awareness is going to be up while you're having conversation with those teenagers. And also, I'd recommend, if you have a significant other in your life, your spouse or someone you're dating, y'all maybe should listen to this podcast and talk about it. And y'all should watch that video from Myron Golden on his YouTube channel and talk about it. It'll help you both. It'll also it'll teach people that you're making excuses. So you'll be less likely to make excuses with those folks. And guess what? They'll be less likely to make excuses with you. You guys will know the same thing. You'll be talking the same language. I hope you do it. The next one from Myron Golden, the next quote from my quote file. This is some good stuff right here. He says, excuses don't matter. Your willingness to make excuses is robbing you of opportunities. That's some leadership truth right there. Excuses don't matter. They don't matter at all. Only person they matter to is the one saying them. And if that person's being real, they still don't matter because they're lying to themselves. An excuse is a lie. That's all an excuse is. It's a lie. It's a lie to the person saying it. It's a lie to the person hearing it. Grow up. Stop making excuses. Start taking responsibility. Doesn't mean you have to be rude to people. You can tell the truth without being rude. I'm telling you truth from start to finish on this podcast today. I ain't being rude to you. I'm just telling you the truth. And I warned you up front. So if you're still listening, you can't blame me because I warned you. But if you're still listening, I'm proud of you. You already at a level most people never going to reach. The majority of people. All you got to do is look out the window. Turn on the TV, look at social media, listen to your friends, listen to your boss, listen to your children, listen to your spouse, listen to everybody. Listen to how many excuses they're making. Don't be one of them. Don't be one of them. So I'm going to look real quick while I'm talking to you because I didn't prepare well enough because I didn't even think about it at the start. But what I needed to do is have the name of this podcast. So I'm looking it up right now on my phone. I didn't even think about telling you the name of it, but I should have. See, I didn't make an excuse. See what I'm doing there? So the name of Myron Golden's YouTube podcast, if you want to look it up, is Your Excuse is Not a Reason. It's Just an Excuse. That's the name of that podcast. You can just search for that, or you can go to Myron, MYRON GOLDEN. If you like me, you're probably going to like Myron, unless you don't like a bunch of faith-based talk, like I mentioned. I don't put that. I'm trying to reach everybody. I don't want to turn people off. So my content is just Mac Story, straight talk content. Anyway, got that squared away for you. Let's go to another quote from Wilford Fluckiger. Any excuse for non-performance, however valid, softens our character. And if you're a listener of mine, you know what I think about character. Character is everything that you are. We want to develop a high degree of character. When Wilford says any excuse for non-performance, however valid, softens our character. He means it diminishes our character. It weakens our character. That's what he's talking about. That's what an excuse does. If you value having a high degree of character, you got to stop making excuses. Straight up. That's why you're starting to see now, hopefully, why I had to interrupt for the second week in a row my Who's Buying You. Until you sell yourself, you won't sell much. Character-based selling 30-part series that I'm in the middle of. Because I want to give you a head start in 2024. I could have waited and did this one later, but I was like, no, I got to go on. I got to do this one now. Somebody out there needs to hear it. It's good stuff. Another quote I snagged from Myron Golden. He says, if you tell someone you're going to do something and you don't do it, they don't care why you didn't do it. They only care that you didn't do it. That's some straight talk. You know that's true. When somebody tells you they're going to do something and they don't do it, you don't care why they didn't do it. You only care that they didn't do it. That's all that matters. If you told somebody you was going to do something, you didn't do it, fix it. Don't make an excuse about why you didn't do it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares why you didn't do something. They only care why you didn't keep your word. Remember the character piece? I organize these quotes in order so they kind of flow for a reason. I just talked about character before that. And I talk about, the content in this quote right here that I just shared from Myron all the time. About integrity, doing what you say you'll do because you said you'll do it, when you said you would do it, how you said you would do it, simply because you said you would do it. If your word don't mean anything, you got a lot of character work to do. It don't matter how small the thing is. If you're not going to do something, don't say you're going to do it. Don't say you're going to do it. Don't make commitments lightly. Commitments create hope. Hope that you actually going to do what you said you were going to do. Keeping commitments builds trust. Breaking commitments creates distrust. Adding an excuse to it creates additional distrust. So it's going to be bad enough you didn't do it, but when you make an excuse, now it makes it even worse, like pouring gas on the fire. If you're trying to put the fire out, why would you pour gas on it? You wouldn't. Stop making excuses. I love you, but stop making excuses. The 8th quote from Wilford Fluckiger again. He says, no matter how good or how valid, an excuse never changes performance. How about that truth? How about that truth? No matter how good or how valid, an excuse never changes performance. You can make excuse all you want, but your performance is going to be what it's going to be. Stop making excuses. You want to launch in 2024? One small tip. You ain't got to start doing anything. I mean, you probably should, but this podcast ain't about to start doing nothing. So you ain't got to say, I ain't got time, I ain't got the money. This podcast is about stop doing something. It ain't going to cost you nothing. Going to benefit you tremendously, but ain't going to cost you nothing because you ain't got to start doing nothing. You ain't got to pay for anything. You got to stop making excuses. Go to the 9th quote here. Another one from Myron Golden. It's a strong. I hope you're ready for it. An excuse doesn't do anything but deceive you and irritate everyone you gave it to. I hope you're starting to see who we are when we make excuses. We are people of poor character when we're making excuses. That's why I do my best not to make an excuse. But if I do, I feel it, and then I fix it. I don't mean I fix it way later. I fix it almost immediately. Because when I say it, when an excuse slips out, I feel it. So I fix it. Think about that when you make an excuse, you're going to feel it. Guess what you do? Fix it. Best thing is to stop making excuses. But if you make one and you feel it, fix it immediately. Because it's deceiving you and it's irritating everyone who heard it or learned about it. See, well, sometimes when you tell somebody about an excuse, they go tell everybody else about the excuse you gave. They go talk about you behind your back. You think everybody believes you lie? They ain't believing you lie. You may believe you lie, but everybody else ain't believing it. You ever believed an excuse somebody gave you? I don't think you have. Number 10, from 2 Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. Jocko was a Navy SEAL commander. You may have heard of him. He talks about extreme ownership, which is exactly what I'm talking about here, taking responsibility. This is for those two. It's from their book, so I don't know. They wrote it together. I don't know which one of them said it. Giving them both credit. Here's what they had to say. Once people stop making excuses, stop blaming others, and take ownership of everything in their lives, they are compelled to take action to solve their problems. That's what you want to do right there, folks. You want to solve your problems. An excuse does not serve you. Stop making excuses. And if you want to help me and you want to help the world, share this podcast. Try to get people you know to listen to this podcast so they will stop making excuses too, especially if you got to deal with these folks. If you deal with these people in your life, share this podcast. If you're listening because someone actually shared this podcast, they're trying to help you have a better life. Yeah, they're going to benefit, but you're going to benefit the most. So if somebody shared it with you, thank them. I hope you appreciate me sharing it with you. When I heard that episode, or watched that video, I should say, from Myron, I was 15 minutes into it, and I started texting some people saying, hey, you need to listen to this. You need to watch this with your kids. You need to have a talk about it. This is some good stuff. And I was only 15 minutes into the 41-minute video. But I'm getting ready to wrap up, so I'm going to leave you with quote number 11 from Scott Fay. And I've been touching on it. But this is a quote, but it's a question. And then I'm going to wrap it up. Here we go from Scott. Do your excuses serve your dream? One more time, in case you missed it. Do your excuses serve your dream? Had to put your country spin on that your, right? You with me? Do your excuses serve your dream? Let me help you if you ain't figured out the answer yet. No, they don't. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Stop making excuses. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mac Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mac's books, programs, special offers, certifications, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.